Here we go. Well, I'm very happy to be here, but I'm meeting all you guys later in life, and you guys don't know me, I don't know you guys, so I just want to come here to share an experience I had in my life. Actually, I lived 7 years of my life in this school community in the mountains near São Paulo, under the teachings of Tomio Kikuchi. Brazil is the largest Japanese colonization outside Japan. There's more Japanese in Brazil than in Korea. It's huge. And I have no idea of what I was entering into. I know that I was seeing his healings and understanding his process of thinking, but I was curious, and I decided to go there, and everything I'm going to say here is my interpretation. I'm going to talk about Oshawa, I'm going to talk about Kikuchi, but it's my interpretation. I don't want to be anybody can question, but because it's like my take, what I learned from it. And it took me a long time to absorb all those teachings. Kikuchi have a strong accent. I have no idea who was Oshawa, but then I discovered he's a very disciplined person. And in his school, once a month, he opened the school for a weekend for what he called encounters. And he created a theme, an educational theme, and he opened the schools where all the students can lecture. And the school, they have a big dojo. We practice Aikido because Kikuchi in Japan, he met Morihei Ueshiba, the founder of Aikido. So and it's a completely a little different approach of Aikido, because I have my son. I have 4 children. I didn't plan. The universe gave me 4 children. My younger son is 11. He practices Aikido since he is 5. But there's a different approach from the Aikido that I had from Kikuchi. Kikuchi Aikido, everybody is white belt until you become a black belt. There's no... And everything has a meaning. It's not only doing this and that. The meaning of Aikido, basically, what the meaning is learning how to roll your physics. And then Kikuchi say, if you fall and you don't know how to stand up again, you don't know how to fall. When you fall, you break yourself. And everybody's going to fall. And you're going to fall physically, you're going to fall emotionally, you're going to fall spiritually, you're going to think things that are never going to happen, you're going to fall. So one key is learning how to roll in the dojo, physically. But anyway, so in his school, he has a dojo. We wake up every day, 5 o'clock in the morning with a bell. We go to the dojo, practice Aikido in the mountains. It's beautiful. So once a month, he opened the school, and on Sundays is his lecture. Goes from 7 to noon, 5 hours lecture, non-stop. Everybody in the dojo, everybody on Seiza. If you don't be in Seiza, you lay down or whatever, but it's really Spartan, very, very Spartan. And each month he has a topic that he developed for 5 hours. And after this, we have a lunch, and then we have people questions, and people go home. But he did every month. Every month he have this routine, and then once a year, he did a compilation of the 10, 11 other seminars that happened, and he make a winter seminar. On this winter seminar is a full week, and every day we go back to each one of the lectures we have every month. And he used to say that the winter is seminar, he said, is like seminar come from insemination. And he thinks that we need to inseminate the spirits and the brains through words. He thinks the word is the most important thing. He used to quote St. John, that said that the beginning was the word, before the word was nothing. So everything is related to words, and the insemination in the winter is the best time in the winter because it's when the seed just fall they're in the ground and they're ready to grow. So he did all this international seminar. People come from all over the world there on the winter to learn things, to be mentally inseminated with ideas and perspectives and things. So it took me a long time to understand that he was not teaching macrobiotics. Macrobiotics is, according to him, is an educational principle. Is pure education. Is different from the approach I know that everybody here at this conference has, but is his approach. So he came from this war. He came from Japan. Japan lost 2 wars. Was famine, and they lost from China because Japan tried to invade China, lost Manchuria, and then Japan tried to attack the United States and took 2 atomic bombs. So the people in Japan, the brains in Japan, said, you know what? It's not through war. We're not going to get anything done around this world through war. It should be through education. So Oshawa started a school and gathered many people together. Kikuchi went there, Herman Ehara were there, Oshawa at that time married Michio, married Kikuchi. It was a big family. He sent students all over the world. But his school name was House of Ignorance. If you go to Paris, it's Maison Ignoramus. And the principle of the school of Oshawa, which macrobiotics is educational principle, the school is based on how to share, how to transform habits. The goal of the education is to transform habits. Habits are the most difficult things to transform in humans. It's impossible to transform habits. Habits make you sick. Habits make a society a mess. So the idea was to create a powerful system of education that could change habits and transform people and give people opportunities to rebirth and transform their lives. And there's a very tough endeavor to come from Japan and try to go to the world and create something called House of Ignorance. But everybody was wanting to go to the House of Ignorance. Kikuchi said everybody was one, but the sensei didn't take all the students. The sensei was only taking students that have the recognition and the humility to understand their ignorance. They didn't want anybody in the school that think they know and want to bring their habits and teach their habits. They were wanting to bring people that were in crisis. Japan was in crisis, and until today, the school in Brazil, people that are in crisis. And when you're in crisis, you're humble. When in crisis, you really understand that, you know what, you're in crisis, you don't know anything, so you recognize your ignorance. At that moment, if you have you're lucky to find the sensei take you under his wing and take him to the House of Ignorance. This was the principle of everything, the House of Ignorance and macrobiotics. So Oshawa he got the unique principle, the theorems. He went the cooking. Based on the cooking was the how to for example, if we are animals, and Ozawa used to say, you know what, if you want to train a dog, if a dog do something good, you give him a cookie. So humans are similar. If they behave well, they're going to feel good, they're going to eat, they're going to poop, they're going to sleep, basic things. So he started the macrobiotic culinary, the art, the fundamental art of life, the art of transformation of people through the mouth, is sculpting people from what they eat. Don't need to eat the same thing. But the basic food was the brown rice, because they went to India and they saw the Ayurvedic medicine, and there was 6,000 of years in China, India, they eating rice. So the rice is the basic staple. So the school in Japan started, and they have the unique principle, the theorems, the cooking, the philosophy, and Ozawa said, you know what? I'm going to go to the world. I want to share with the world what we discover here. And everybody asked Ozawa, why don't go to the United States? It's the most powerful nation in the world. They have a lot of money. Ozawa said, they don't need me. They're not ready for me. So he went to the poorest place in the world, the city of Calcutta. Ozawa left Japan and moved to Calcutta, because Calcutta was the poorest and the most suffering place in the world at the time. And he started the House of Ignorance in Calcutta. He spent a couple of years in Calcutta teaching macrobiotics, but in the House of Ignorance. And from Calcutta, he heard there was a German man, a doctor in Africa. His name was Albert Schweitzer. This was 1955. And he heard that this German man was doing surgeries, amputating people, and testing new techniques of how to operate people in Africa. The natives were suffering his hand. He was doing experiments of techniques that we use in hospitals until today, started with Albert Schweitzer there. So Ozawa said, you know what, this is my man. I want to challenge this German guy. So he flew to Africa, and he met Schweitzer. And she said, Schweitzer, what you're doing is a quackery. You are testing your ideas, cutting people. It's not going to heal anybody. So because Ozawa said the way is to teach people how to eat, how to think, how to use words, and how to understand life is a constant movement, that what's up here now is down there again. So we need to face reality, not this linear way of thinking of purity, and you cut the disease and the disease is gone. Well, Schweitzer was pissed. He called this, no, this is a chinoiserie from this Japanese guy. And he challenged Ozawa, say, no, not if your system of education is so good, I want to challenge you. You need to leave the beriberi fly bit you, and the tsetse fly bit you, and you need to get beriberi disease. And I want you to see if you can heal from your beriberi with your diet and your philosophy. Well, the Japanese guy said, well, this is up to my alley, you know what? I'm going to let. So he got the tsetse fly, and he got beriberi, and he almost died. And they said until today that Ozawa died prematurely because of the beriberi. The beriberi is a terrible disease. So, but he survived at the time. But what was most important, that Schweitzer couldn't stand doing his experiments with the native in Africa, because Ozawa opened a new dimension of understanding and healing. So what Schweitzer came back to Europe, and And I think this was a big battle between Osawa educational principles and the traditional medicine. It was the first clash. And it was so strong that Osawa died from this clash later. But this is something that's important to know. So from there, Osawa was kind of sick and was convalescent. He moved to France. Madame Rivière, they start the Le Grand Petit in Paris, and they start doing macrobiotics in France. And Osawa was very warm welcome. He was a nice person. He was bringing all these ideas, all those principles. And so he started helping sick people. And after a while, he decided, now is my time to go to the US. So Osawa left Paris and moved to New York, arrived in New York, this Japanese guy with brown rice diet, 7 days rice on the books. And everybody afraid of this guy. So the first clients of the first students of Osawa were the New York Philharmonic Orchestra, because they all had a problem there, and Osawa went there and they cook for them and they feel good and they poop better. They all constipated and start pooping better. And then the music was better, and everyone, you should talk to this guy. This is the man. And Osawa started giving prescriptions of 7-day diets for people with cancer to detox, and people start dying. Things didn't go well for Jorge Osawa. They start dying and start suing Osawa. So Osawa went to go back to Paris because they were suing him in America for quackery, for giving brown rice for sick people and people dying. And he went back to Paris. And then Kikuchi asked Osawa, so Osawa, why do you think so many people were dying under your diet in New York? Why do you think? So Osawa said, I don't know, Kikuchi, but I can tell you something. Here in Paris, when I go for my morning walk in Paris, I see my cancer patients all carrying a baguette under the arm. And in New York, all my patients I give strict diets, they do a strict diet until they die. I think it's a mentality thing. This is what he said. So I think this is something interesting that I want to share, because this fanatism is something that kills people. Yeah? It's not what happened. And I think this is something that I was going to share. This is basically a little story that I went to the back of my memory and I want to share. And I'm more than open to ask any questions anyone of you can have. And I want to thank you for the opportunity.
So how are you living now? Are you in a community of people now?
Oh, Clara, thank you. It's a very good question. I'm going to go back a little bit. When Osawa and Kikuchi and Michio and Herman and all the other teachers in Africa, in India that we don't know, they thought that the solution for the world was trying to get people to live in community. But there were no reference of community. So they start studying, Osawa starts studying, Kikuchi starts studying a Russian guy called Anton Makarenko. Anton Makarenko wrote a series of books called The Pedagogic Poems. And Makarenko was the first guy to get kids on the streets, kids out of jail, and put them together and start building up the community from inside out. And he kept journals. It's very interesting. 7 books. I recommend Antonio Macarenko. And this is what gave to the Japanese the idea of how to build up a community. I left Kikuchi's. My story is interesting. I was born in the US, and I have dual citizenship, Brazil and English. And I was wanting to live in the US. One day after 7 years that I was at school, 7 years, Kikuchi called me on a rainy Sunday. And I went to São Paulo because it was a 30 minutes drive from the mountains to his office in São Paulo. And he said, you know, Eduardo, it's time to go. At that time, because when I arrived at the community, I was in the lower position. My job was to get a VW and go to restaurants in São Paulo early in the morning, like the recycle, get all the rest of the food and in barrels by myself, stinky, and then drive this to the school and do the compost for the garden. So I came to the school in the lowest level. After 7 years, I was the right arm of Kikuchi of the community there. So Kikuchi said, you know what? 7 days, you change your white cells. In 7 days, you can change your immune system. In 90 days, you change your red cells. You can. So this is diets of 7 days, diets of 90 days. But anyway, 7 days, the white cells, 30 days. But 7 years, you were under this body, you are a new person. All your cells are new. You think you're the same person, but you're not. You're a different person. So you already transform yourself in my school, and it's time to you to hit the world or go to the world, go to the US. It is your dream. You have the citizenship. You're going to find. You're going to be like a fish. But it's not so easy. It was very difficult. So I came here to California because I have a friend in California. I have $1,800 and a bag of things, and I arrive in San Jose International Airport. Oh my God, it was a difficult time. But I didn't create a community. I met communities here. I met Baba Haridas on the Mount Madonna. I had a community, a guy from India, very, very good community. He passed away some time ago, but I was curious. I went to Los Gatos to study Scientology. I traveled the world trying to understand. But I never founded a community. I discovered, I went to the Silicon Valley, I studied computers. I became a high-tech guy in the dot-com world. And then the dot-com went down, I went down, and I moved to San Francisco. I discovered San Francisco. San Francisco is the place in the US that everybody that left their houses and have problems, move west, go to San Francisco. There's a beat generation in San Francisco. I was friends of Lawrence Ferlinghetti. I still have Wow. So I moved to San Francisco and I found a community there. I live in the Mission in a school called New College of California, which was first progressive school in the United States. They created the first law school that was advocating for the customer, not for the corporation. So it's everything progressive. I joined that. People have good friends. And then I found the love of my life on the Irish studies program, because my grandmother was Irish. And then, because when I left Brazil, I was divorced. I have 2 kids from my first marriage. One is 46, the other is 44. Then I married again, and I was very happy. But she passed away 2 years ago. I tried to help her, love her, rescue, but this Irish, she had this Irish karma of the drunk father, abusive and everything, and she got cancer, and I tried to do everything I could. I took care of her 5 years, but by the end she went to another dimension. And now my full-time job is to raise my kids. My girl is 14, my boy is 11, and I take care of that. I take care of the house. I take care of them. I share my philosophy with them, and I have a very rich and full life. I'm not a rich man in finances, but I have a full life. So to answer your question, Karen, thank you. I never went to live in community. I think like Kikuchi, a little bit pragmatic. You know, I think we need to deal with things that are in front of us. At this moment, we have a war. Imagine, we have people killing people in front of us. Nobody says that. So it's, the world is going a very difficult time. But Ozawa and Kikuchi lived those difficult times in their times too. I think he prepared us for those days that are coming. Each one of us that study macrobiotics, you know, that we are prepared to deal with any situation at any time with anybody. And so when you invite me to come to this conversation here, I'm glad to see all your faces and see that we have something in common, and it's good, all good, or all bad too.
You are such a fantastic storyteller. It's really incredible. I've just been mesmerized listening to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. You know, I'm so glad that you brought the subject of breathing, because Kikuchi used to say that the pranayana. He said that he said the world outside is movement. We have no control. The world outside, there's no control. You don't have a control of your family, of your friends, of the world. But the only thing we have control is of our breathing. So if we can disconnect a little bit and focus on our breathing, we can go back to our base. And the pranayana is you breathe 1, 2, take in 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. And then you expire, and you don't do 1, 2, 3, 4. You do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 6. You spend more time exhaling than inhaling. And if you do this for a couple of times, you really calm down. It's not science, it's not magic. You can help doing some mudras in your hand to help your blood pressure to come down. But Marion is about breathing. You're right on track.
I'm very excited reading this man's book and then hearing what you are saying. And he originally got to this breathing because he was working with people who were doing free diving and could hold their breath for a very, very, very long time. They had huge lung capacity, and they developed it deliberately so they could be free diving. And that's diving deep without air. So and that got me so excited reading about that. I thought, I'm just in the wrong world. I need to be where the ocean is, and I need to be in the water. You know, that's where I breathe the most comfortably, is when I'm underwater, you know, and it's like when I have air. So it's just like rearranging all the little molecules in my brain. And now listening to you talk about it, it's just kind of cementing it down. So I appreciate it. And I appreciate Yugi Not for creating all this.
Yes.
Well, I'm looking forward to having you teach us. Or when someone else, I'd love to have that kind of thing here on the forum.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, really.
I enjoy your stories, Eduardo, and I enjoy your wisdom that you put in, that you bring in. Oshawa lived a difficult life, preparing us to do the same.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. This is the last one of these forums we're having before our election on Tuesday, which will determine a lot of our future in the United States going forward.
It won't change the form.
No, it's good to know.
We just went through our elections too, just last week.
Oh my God.
They won't change us either.
Yeah. My party didn't even get in the coalition, and the party I didn't want is leading the coalition.
I have a question.
Yay.
You said about, how they wondered about why people in America died when people in France weren't dying and they had their baguette under their arm. So what's the conclusion ultimately? I mean, we know bread isn't good for you. I mean, when I was at a retreat with Kushi, with Michio, and I had a herniated disc in my neck, but we didn't know it yet. And I was in a terrible lot of pain. Everyone was trying to diagnose me and treat me, and nothing was working. And then in one of his talks, they stood me up in front of him and said, "What's wrong with her?" And he just looked at me and went, "Too much bread, too much bread, too much bread." And I said, "I haven't eaten any bread for 10 years. And he just looked at me and went, "Yes, too much bread, you're too fat, too much bread, too much bread." So, I mean, obviously we're all different, and maybe those French people, because baguette is so much part of their culture, that they were happier having it, and because they had, happy chemistry running around their body, that was as healing as brown rice might have been. I don't know. I mean, what was the conclusion?
Amanda, thank you. I think it's a very good question. I don't even know if there's a conclusion, but there's a thought. It's about flexibility. Everybody knows their diseases. The doctor just said to us what we know already. Our habit creates our diseases. Our genetics creates our diseases. I'm dealing with people with cancer. My wife died of cancer. My dad died of cancer. And my conclusion, and then the people, no, let's make a DNA to see if I have the gene of cancer. It's all valid. But I think everybody has cancer. Everybody is like a bomb. Everybody has a bomb. But if you don't have the trigger, the bomb doesn't explode. It's about the trigger, the sensitivity of the trigger. Some people are more sensitive to abuse in their childhood. Some people are more sensitive to some foods. But you know what? If you pull the trigger, you get cancer. And if you are lucky because you don't know, you can have the gene of cancer or never have cancer. So the baguette, going back to the baguette, I always think about this because there's a thought that Kikuchi translated to me from Oshawa that there's no conclusive, it's not yes or no exact. But I think that I see many people in this culture of here in the United States, fanatics. They're fanatics to talk about the election. Imagine there are people that think that the guy won the election. People, fanatics. There are many people fanatics. And fanaticism doesn't take you anywhere on the long haul. And the French, you know what? I cannot live without my baguette. I'm doing my brown rice, but you know what? Nobody's seeing. I eat a little bit of bread. So so the body can react slowly, and they have it under control. So they stop eating the cheese that is so toxic, and the meat that was so toxic. Now they have rice and baguette. Oh, they feel better. But in the United States, no, United States people have cancer, they put the rice, and just the rice, and get worse, and they die. It's some food for thought. I just want to sparkle something, give an idea to thought, but I don't have a conclusion, the right or wrong. I'm so sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I was wondering if he came up with a conclusion, not you.
And the conclusion now is up to Amanda.
It's what?
It's up to you. They put the bug on your head now, you know.
Well, I'm always being told I'm too wide because I'm not technically macrobiotic. I studied the principles of macrobiotics, but I didn't study through the macrobiotic system. I studied through a different system. And so, you know, and as I said, you know, learning in Australia, we used, you know, what we had local and adapted accordingly. So to a lot of macrobiotic people, they don't consider what I do macrobiotics, but to people who know a little bit about macrobiotics, they think what I do is macrobiotics. So, you know, it's a bit like, are you religious or aren't you religious? It's like all a question of perspective, really. And I see macrobiotic as macrobios, you know, whole life. And so you look at your whole life and you do accordingly. And if, you know, my teacher said, you know, if you ask a road digger to sit and eat a bowl of brown rice, chew it 200 times and contemplate the meaning of life, you'll never get any roads built, you know. But if you give him his burger and his beer, he'll be happy. I mean, I don't know if that's true or not, because I know, you know, road workers who do eat brown rice. So, you know, there's nothing that's this way or that way. It's like, that's the beauty of it.
If it's not true, is well said. No? If it's not true, is well said.
That's nice.
If it's not true, what?
It's well said.
It's well said. It's well said. It was said well. It's not true, but it went good through our ears, you know.
I don't follow you, but it's probably just a language thing.
No, there's nothing, you know. Kikuchi wrote a book. This there in English called Absolute Relativity. Nothing is absolute, 100% absolute, and nothing is 100% relative. It's absolute relative all the time. And the flexibility is about how to deal with both sides of the same thing, independent of what we expect or what we feel good, no?
My teacher called it complementary antagonistic.
Right on.
I have a question.
Yes.
My name is Vera. And you know, I studied with Michelle Aveline in California, Cecil Levin, Herman and Cornelia Hara many years ago. And I find it interesting, or in some ways, that they dedicated their lives to macrobiotics and teaching and training people, and yet Micho, Aveline, Lily, Cecil all died of cancer. Just what, you know, and Herman, you know, I don't know what happened to Cornelia. I lost touch with them, but and their children, but I just find it ironic that so many of our very important macrobiotic teachers you know, passed away from the same illness that other people who have no awareness whatsoever of their lives passed away from. And to me, it says that food, diet, you know, that's not the only thing that we need to focus on. And I know that Oshawa talked about that, and Meisho as well. You know, you have to live your life, and the pranayama. I mean, there's many aspects to living a whole and healthy life, not just food. And it feels like sometimes macrobiotics can be so only focused on fanatically eating a certain way that they lose touch with, you know, the other elements, the importance of the other elements in our life, you know, our words, how we speak, how our actions, you know, how we're living in harmony or not harmony with the earth, and, you know, lots of other things. But I just have reflected on that a lot. And I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
You know, I agree with you 100%. Nobody has the answer. You know, Osawa, when I start doing macrobiotics, and actually Kikuchi don't call macrobiotic in Brazil, they call education for life, because macrobiotic have this thing of isolating people, and the idea is not isolate people. But when I start doing, I was wanting to know more about Jorge Osawa, or this guy. And he passed away 64. I said, wow, I'm 72. I said, oh my God. But you know what? I think that you know, everybody's going to die. I don't know who is going to die first, you know. And I think that this idea that we have solutions for everything, you know, we are, you know, in macrobiotics they call principles. We can have principles, and you can use your principles, and the principles can fulfill your state of happiness. Because if you're following your principles and you overcome something that was difficult for you through using a principle, at that little slice of time you're happy, and this is what it counts, you know. Other than that, we need to accept that we came from we don't know where, and we are going to we don't know where. But the good thing is we are here now. We can breathe, we can talk, you know. And I think that if any one of those macrobiotic teachers, senseis that died from cancer, died upset because they got cancer, they didn't get the message. Because the message is, you know what? You need to navigate the winds that life gives to you. If you have the genes and you trigger those genes by stress is stress, food, toxic environment, you need to sail to die to death. There's nothing there. Nobody is above anybody. No, nobody is above this law of the universe. So I agree with you. I don't have the answer, but I think that the way you're questioning is very healthy, because it's good to question.
Can I say something about that as well?
Please.
When I met Michaud, he was 80, and he would kneel on the chair or on the stool for hours, lecturing at 80. Like his mind and his, you know, it was incredible to watch him. I don't know very many 80-year-olds that were traveling around the world teaching at the capacity that he was teaching. So, and what he ate while he was teaching was very bizarre. I mean, I don't think it could have been called macrobiotic. And, you know, everyone knows he still smoked whatever and drank his coffee, and he ate a few almonds. It was very bizarre, his choice of diet. But he said that, you know, like when he's on the road, he can't get macrobiotic food everywhere. And so sometimes he'd have to eat Thai, or, you know, he'd try and find, you know, the best of what was available, but it usually wasn't organic. And he'd often have to just get a takeaway, or, you know, rush. His schedule was so intense sometimes. And so he knew that he packed in his life more than one lifetime of an average person. And so I think that, you know, we look at it and say, well, he was macrobiotic and he was the master and he died of cancer, but he lived, you know, the fullness of his life until he died was more, I think, life than most people who maybe live a little bit longer, if that makes sense. And I do think that, I mean, you know, that he understood. I mean, I do think that he knew what he'd done and why it had happened, and, you know, and was, I think, I don't know, that's just my take on my meeting of him and what I learned and what I heard.
Amanda, thank you so much for your memories. It's very, very nice to hear from you, your experience and your memories of Michio Kushi. You know, he was a great man, and they have discipline. I think that we can mirror ourselves and try to find a way to get this kind of discipline as well, you know. But it was very good to hear from you your memories. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
I'd like to offer something on the subject of cancer, if that would be okay, just really quick.
Yeah, I know. Of course.
Thank you. I found that cancer is a word that was kind of created by a system that doesn't understand macrobiotic theory and principle. And that in real life, what I found cancer to really be is a natural degeneration that happens over time. We call it like liver failure, like just because the liver stopped working, but cancer is basically just us slowly dying and eventually dying, and they don't know why. To me, like, that's just when our bodies expire, they're like, we don't know what did it exactly, but here's some stuff that fell apart first. We'll call it cancer. It's its fault. But that's like our degeneration from bad habits over time.
Are you ready to face your cancer when it comes?
I died 20 years ago. I was lucky. So I'm not really worried about death. I'm a hospice nurse for 25 years.
You're going to die. One day you're going to, we are
all
going to.
And there's no reason to feel bad about it.
Exactly. Thank you.
It's just a natural process. So when people call it cancer, I think it's kind of making it scary sounding when it's just the person just passed away in their sleep, basically. That used to be called dying from old age until they got a microscope to be like, oh no, it's an alien. I just wanted to offer that as a.
Thank you. As your perspective, appreciate it. Thank you.
I just want to throw in something. Or you see me or hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Well, you're very interesting talk. You raised some interesting points. You stimulated some interesting comments at the end. And I think it's a nice lead into what I'm going to have to say. So thank you for that. A lot of questions were raised and a lot of ideas presented that I think perhaps I can help people understand them. Just one thing on cancer, children get it as well. So I don't know about it, what degenerating when they get cancer. I don't think children and young adults who get it, and that's the stay tuned.
Thank you, Finnerman. Appreciate it.
Well, that offers me a beautiful segue. to first of all, thank you, Eduardo. I was really touched and inspired by your comments. I really very much appreciate your coming on and your thinking and your presentation. I really admire it and am grateful, appreciative. And with that, I can also introduce Michael Feinerman. Dr. Feinerman, MD, is our next speaker. So we have 10 minutes. Let's take our break, and then we'll come back at the top of the hour.